Today we are going to be speaking about Rhys Jones, but before we get into that, I just want to say that I'm really sorry that I didn't put out any videos last week. I am still fairly ill, and I was very ill last week, and that's why I currently look like shit, but I wanted to get a video out for you guys this week. So normal upload schedule of Tuesday, which is obviously when you're watching this, and Friday. So yeah, let's talk about Rhys Jones. So he was the son of Stephen and Melanie Jones, and he also had a brother, Owen, who was actually 5 years older than him. He was from Liverpool, and his former head teacher and his neighbours said that he was really friendly and popular, and that he really loved football. He played for the Fir Tree Boys Football Club, and he was on his way home from football practice alone. So he was walking home, and he was crossing the Fir Tree pub car park, and a hooded youth riding a silver mountain bike approached the car park. So the youth held a Smith & Wesson handgun and fired 3 shots. So the shots were actually aimed at a rival gang who were across the car park. However, one of the shots hit Rhys Jones. So it was originally believed that one of the shots actually hit Rhys in the neck. However, at the trial, a pathologist stated that actually the bullet had entered Jones's back. It had entered above his left shoulder blade and exited through the right side of his neck, so quite traumatic. So his mother, Melanie, rushed to the scene as soon as she heard what had happened, and by the time that she got there, he was unconscious. She rang the paramedics, and they tried for 90 minutes to resuscitate him. However, they were sadly unsuccessful. They took him to the local children's hospital, which was Alder Hey Children's Hospital, and he was pronounced dead there sometime later. So a local radio station known as Radio City, from 10 PM until 2 AM that night, the same day that he was shot, they dedicated a show to finding witnesses, and they also were talking about gun crime and spreading awareness. They also launched an anti-gun crime campaign, and this was backed by the parents of Rhys Jones, and it was the campaign of "In Rhys's Name, Get Guns Off Our Streets." So the detective working on the case arrested and later released 4 15 to 19-year-olds, and then 2 more were arrested who were 15 to 19 as well. However, they were released on bail pending further inquiries. So the police then appealed to the public to help with their investigation. They described the gun, and more than 300 officers and a gun crime specialist were deployed. So 4 weeks after the murder, Rhys Jones' parents made an appeal for witnesses, and then 1 week after this appeal, they aired the appeal on Crime Watch, which is a UK show where crimes are reconstructed to find witnesses and to raise awareness of the crimes, and they have a helpline which can be called into. So Rhys Jones's mother, Melanie, she actually appealed on Crime Watch, and she asked the murderer's mother to come forward and turn her son in. So on Crime Watch that night, they received 12 calls, all mentioning the exact same name. So on the 18th of April 2008, males were arrested in connection with the murder. 1 was arrested for the murder, and the others were arrested for assisting an offender. So one of the males that had been arrested as well had already been charged with possessing a firearm previously. On December 16th, 2008, after a 9-week trial, Sean Mercer was found guilty. So he was a member of the xoxo crew gang, and he was 16 at the time of shooting Rhys Jones, and he was 18 at the time of his sentencing. He was sentenced to life in prison, and he was ordered to serve a minimum of 22 years in prison. Jeanette Mercer, his mother, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison for perverting the cause of justice. She lied to the detectives about Mercer's bicycle and said that he only had an orange and black mountain bike and not a silver one as seen by witnesses. However, the police went through her records and found that actually she had made an order a few months previously to the murder for a silver mountain bike for her son Sean Mercer. So James Yates, he was 20 years old and he was jailed for 7 years for supplying the gun that was used to shoot Rhys Jones. He helped by dousing Mercer in petrol to destroy evidence of gun residue as well. He was released in 2014 after serving 5 years. However, there was a condition to his release, which was that he was not able to go anywhere near the area where Rhys's family are grieving and where Rhys was shot. However, he decided that in 2015 he was going to try and convince the government to let him back into the neighbourhood, and this made headlines all around the UK. However, the Ministry of Justice denied his request, which I think is actually a decent thing to do, because for God's sake, if my son died, I haven't got kids, but if I had kids and they died and the murderer wanted to come and knock on my door and say hi, or walk around my streets, I'd be like, no. So disrespectful. I don't understand what was going through his head when he did that. Francis Yates, his dad, he was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison, and Marie Yates, his mother, was sentenced to 18 months in prison. And this was both charges for perverting the course of justice, because they destroyed potential evidence and hid vital information from the police. Nathan Quinn, he was jailed at 18 years old for 2 years. He helped Mercer get rid of the murder weapon and get rid of his clothes as well. By the time of the sentence, he was actually already serving 5 years for gun crime. So he had to serve out his current sentence of the gun crime sentence, and then he had 2 years added on top for assisting Sean Mercer. He was released in 2011 and was also banned from the xoxo area where Rhys's family are grieving. Melvin Coy, he was sentenced to 7 years. He had no previous offences. However, he was the first person to alert Mercer of the rival gang being in the area, and after the murder, he drove Mercer to a lockup in Kirkby, and he doused Mercer in petrol to get rid of the gun residue, and he burned Mercer's clothes, and then he drove them back to xoxo. And Gary Case was an accomplice of Coy, and he was also jailed for 7 years for assisting an offender. Dean Kelly, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison for assisting an offender. Basically what happened with this is he decided to move the weapon. The murder made headlines, and the weapon was originally stored in a dog shelter. However, once the murder made headlines and it started to get more publicity and people were appealing, he decided that it was getting too big, and he went to the dog shelter, retrieved the gun, and then hid it in a loft. And that's it for today, guys. So if you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up. I'm sorry that I am ill, but I can't help it. My immune system decided that it was time. Leave a comment in the comment section if you think that they should have got longer, but just remember to be respectful because of obviously the family. And I will see you next time.